The crystalline spires of the galactic assembly pierced the purple skies of Centauri Prime, their surfaces reflecting the light of three suns in a dazzling display. Inside the grand chamber, over 300 representatives from the most powerful civilizations in known space gathered for what they believed would be a routine disciplinary session. None of them suspected this day would mark the beginning of a new era in galactic history. Ambassador Elena Rossi stood before the Assembly's circular platform, her simple charcoal diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the ornate robes and biomechanical suits worn by the alien representatives. The chamber's automated systems adjusted the gravity and atmosphere around each delegation's position, creating a symphony of environmental bubbles that allowed all species to exist comfortably in the same space. High Chancellor Drelthan, his iridescent scales shifting colors with each movement, gazed down at the human representative from his elevated position. 6 crystalline eyes blinked in sequence as he activated the chamber's universal translation field. Ambassador Rossi, you stand before this assembly to address humanity's violation of Treaty Article 742b, the unauthorized development of restricted technologies. Our monitoring stations have detected quantum manipulation signatures from 3 separate research facilities in your solar system. How do you respond? Elena's dark eyes remained fixed on the High Chancellor, her expression neutral. The chamber fell silent, the usual background whispers of diplomatic neural networks going quiet. This was the moment the Assembly had waited for the chance to finally put humanity in its proper place. Before I respond, High Chancellor, Elena's voice carried clearly through the chamber, I would like to remind the Assembly of humanity's history with this august body. For 3 centuries, we have been treated as children, given scraps of outdated technology as diplomatic gifts, while being denied full membership status. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Grand Arbiter Voxtel, his crystalline form catching the light, leaned forward. The Assembly's guidance has ensured peaceful technological development for all species. Humanity's impatience is precisely why such restrictions exist. Elena's lips curved into a slight smile that sent an inexplicable chill through the chamber. Impatience? No, Grand Arbiter, we have been very patient indeed. For 300 years we studied your gifts. We learned. We adapted. We combined technologies in ways you never imagined possible. The Assembly erupted in shocked whispers. High Chancellor Drelthan's scales flashed warning colors. You admit to illegal technological integration. The penalties for such actions are severe, Ambassador. The Assembly demands immediate cessation of all quantum research and submission of all related data. Elena reached into her pocket and withdrew a small device, causing security fields to flicker to life around the platform. She held up her hand. This is merely a quantum communicator, standard technology by your metrics, but watch closely. She pressed a single button. Throughout the chamber, holographic displays sprung to life, showing real-time footage from across human space. Massive structures previously hidden by cleverly designed sensor shadows emerged into view. Orbital platforms around every human world transformed, revealing themselves as components of a vast defensive network. We are not here to submit to your demands, High Chancellor. We are here to inform you that, as of this moment, humanity withdraws from all assembly treaties and oversight. The chamber exploded into chaos. Representatives shouted threats and demands, neural networks overloaded with frantic communications. Through it all, Elena's voice cut like a blade. For centuries, you gave us pieces of a puzzle, never imagining we would solve it. You saw us as children playing with hand-me-down toys. You should have remembered that children grow up. High Chancellor Drelthan's scales had turned ash-gray. This is madness. You cannot hope to stand against the combined might of the Assembly. Our peacekeeping fleets will. Will do what exactly? Elena interrupted, her smile growing colder. Perhaps you should check your long-range sensors. Look closely at what's happening around New Mars colony. The chamber's main display showed a massive Assembly peacekeeping fleet approaching the human colony world. Suddenly, space itself seemed to fold around the fleet. When the distortion cleared, the ships were gone. Don't worry, they're perfectly safe, Elena assured the stunned silence. They're simply, elsewhere, we call it quantum displacement, one of many technologies we developed while you were so busy protecting us from ourselves. She turned, walking toward the chamber's exit. At the doorway, she paused. You have 30 days to recognize humanity as a full sovereign power with all the rights and privileges thereof. After that, she shrugged. Well, I suppose we'll find out just how well your peacekeeping fleets fare against children who learn to combine all their toys. The doors sealed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving the Galactic Assembly in stunned silence. In the upper observation deck, Analyst First Class Zyxvorn frantically compiled data, his tentacles trembling as he recognized the patterns. The humans hadn't just developed new technology, they had spent centuries preparing for this exact moment. The game board had changed, and humanity had just revealed they had been playing by. Analyst First Class Zyxvorn's research chamber in the Assembly Intelligence Division was a maze of holographic displays, each showing different aspects of human activity over the past century. His 6 tentacles moved in constant motion, manipulating data streams as his compound eyes processed multiple feeds simultaneously. Something about the human's recent behavior had been bothering him, and now he knew why. Display historical trade routes, human colonies last 5 years, he commanded. The central hologram shifted, showing a web of commercial traffic throughout assembly space. With each passing month, human vessels had gradually reduced their presence in major trading hubs, not enough to raise alarms, but enough to create a pattern. A soft chime announced the arrival of Grand Inspector Calmer, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light from the displays. Tell me you have something, Analyst. The Council is in chaos. Zyxvorn's skin shifted to a deeper shade of blue, indicating concern. Look at this, Inspector. Human mining operations in the Kuiper Belt 3 years ago. The display showed what appeared to be routine asteroid mining. Now watch when I apply our new quantum detection algorithms retroactively. The scene transformed. What had seemed like normal mining operations revealed themselves as massive construction projects, hidden behind carefully maintained sensor blinds. They weren't just mining resources, Zyxvorn explained. They were building something big. Calmer's crystalline structure vibrated with alarm. How did we miss this? Because we were looking for what we expected to see. Zyxvorn pulled up another display. Remember the Proxima incident 2 years ago, when that human research station exploded? Of course, tragic accident. We sent condolences. There was no accident. Zyxvorn's tentacles danced across the controls, revealing new data. They faked it. The explosion was controlled, designed to release exactly the right kind of radiation to mask what they were really doing, testing quantum fold technology on a massive scale. The Grand Inspector moved closer to the displays, his crystalline form reflecting the data streams. You're saying they've been planning this for years? Decades, possibly centuries. Zyxvorn brought up more displays, showing human activity across multiple sectors. Every diplomatic concession they asked for, every trade route they established, every colony they built, it was all part of a larger plan. A new alert flashed across the screens. Zyxvorn's skin paled. Sir, you need to see this. We're detecting massive energy signatures from Earth's solar system. The display showed a stunning sight. Enormous structures were emerging from seemingly empty space around Earth, Mars, and several other human-controlled worlds. They had been there all along, hidden by technology that combined stealth systems from the Verdaxians, energy masking from the Kithtal, and quantum field manipulation that surpassed anything the Assembly had achieved. They didn't just combine our technologies, Calmer whispered. They improved them, evolved them. Another alert sounded. Zyxvorn's tentacles moved frantically across the controls. Sir, we're losing contact with our monitoring stations near human space. Not through destruction, they're just disappearing. The Grand Inspector's crystalline form darkened. Quantum displacement, like what happened to the peacekeeping fleet. Yes, but on a scale we never thought possible. They're creating quantum barriers around their territories. Our sensors can't penetrate them, our ships can't navigate through them. Zyxvorn pulled up a strategic analysis. They're not preparing for war, sir. They're making war impossible. Calmer studied the displays, his crystalline mind processing the implications. The assembly gave them pieces of advanced technology, thinking they would develop along predictable lines. But humans don't think like us, Zyxvorn finished. Where we see boundaries between different technologies, they see connections. While we carefully maintained separation between different scientific disciplines, they were finding ways to make them work together. A message flashed across the screen's priority communication from Earth. The image of Admiral Viktor Petrov appeared, his weathered face calm but determined. To the Assembly Intelligence Division, we know you're analyzing our recent activities. To save you time, I'll confirm your suspicions. Yes, we've been planning this for centuries. No, you haven't discovered all our capabilities yet. And yes, this demonstration of our quantum displacement technology is just the beginning. The Admiral's image leaned forward slightly. For 300 years, you treated us like children playing with borrowed toys. Now it's time for the children to show you what they've learned. 25 days remain in Ambassador Rossi's deadline. Use them wisely. The transmission cut off, leaving Zyxvorn and Calmer staring at the displays showing human space, now almost completely hidden behind quantum barriers that shouldn't have been possible. Sir, Zyxvorn said quietly, I don't think we're dealing with children anymore. I think we're dealing with something far more dangerous, adults who spent 3 centuries quietly preparing for this moment. Outside the research chamber, the assembly continued its frantic debates, not yet understanding that the balance of power had already shifted. The humans hadn't just changed the rules of the game. They had been playing an entirely different game all along. Deep within Olympus Mons on Mars, Admiral Viktor Petrov stood in the heart of Project Nexus, humanity's most ambitious achievement. The command center sprawled through a series of vast caverns, each wall lined with quantum-enhanced displays showing the status of human space. Officers moved with practiced efficiency between stations, monitoring the greatest technological revolution in human history. Status report on the quantum barrier network, Petrov commanded, his voice carrying the weight of 3 decades of preparation for this moment. Director Amara Patel, the quantum physicist who had helped develop the barrier technology, stepped forward. Her dark hair was streaked with silver, marking the years she dedicated to this project. The network is performing beyond expectations, Admiral. Assembly sensors can't penetrate our space, and their ships literally cannot plot a course through the quantum-folded regions we've created. Petrov nodded, studying the main display where thousands of points of light represented human installations across dozens of star systems. Each one was now protected by overlapping fields of quantum-manipulated space, creating what amounted to a sovereign territory that no outside force could enter without permission. And Project Phoenix, he asked. Ready for demonstration, Amara replied, her eyes gleaming with pride. She gestured to a secondary display showing a massive structure orbiting Jupiter. The assembly thinks quantum fold technology is just about transportation. They have no idea what happens when you combine it with their own gravitic manipulation systems. The chamber's doors slid open as Commander Junwei Chen entered, his uniform bearing the insignia of fleet intelligence. Admiral, we're detecting increased assembly fleet movements along our quantum barriers. They're probing for weaknesses. Let them probe, Petrov smiled. Each scan gives us more data about their capabilities. Director Patel, show the commander what happens when they get too curious. Amara brought up footage from an assembly scout ship that had ventured too close to the barrier. The vessel's sensors had triggered an automated response, causing the space around it to ripple like water. When the distortion cleared, the ship found itself orbiting its starting point 6 hours in the past. Temporal displacement? Junwei asked, impressed. I thought that was theoretical. The assembly thought quantum fold technology was theoretical too, Amara replied. They never imagined what would happen when we combined their temporal mechanics research with Arcturian phase technology and our own quantum innovations. A new alert flashed across the screens. Petrov's expression hardened. Report. Assembly diplomatic channel, sir, a communications officer announced. Grand Arbiter Voxtel is requesting an immediate conference with human leadership. Put him through, Petrov ordered. Main screen. The crystalline form of Voxtel appeared, his usual calm demeanor notably strained. Admiral Petrov, the Assembly demands an explanation for your recent actions. The quantum barriers around human space violate 17 different treaties. The same treaties that kept humanity relegated to second-class status. Petrov's voice was steel wrapped in silk. The ones that ensured we would never develop beyond what the Assembly deemed appropriate. Those treaties existed for the safety of all species, Voxtel insisted. The technologies you're combining were kept separate for good reason. The risks were calculated, Amara interrupted, stepping into view. Every possible interaction, every potential cascade effect, every quantum uncertainty. We spent centuries not just developing these technologies, but understanding them at a level your scientists never bothered to attempt. Petrov gestured to the displays showing humanity's achievements. You gave us pieces of a puzzle, assuming we'd never solve it, but humans have always been good at seeing patterns others miss. Every diplomatic gift of technology, every restricted research field, every protective limitation, they all became parts of something greater. What you're doing could destabilize the entire galactic community, Voxtel warned. No, Petrov corrected. What we're doing is ensuring humanity's place as equals, not subordinates. The quantum barriers aren't weapons, they're shields, protecting human space while we complete our transformation. Voxtel's crystalline form shimmered with concern. Transformation. Petrov nodded to Amara, who activated a new display. The massive structure orbiting Jupiter began to pulse with energy, its quantum field expanding to encompass the entire Jovian system. Project Phoenix, Petrov explained. The next stage in human development. We're not just combining technologies anymore, Grand Arbiter. We're transcending them. 20 days remain in our deadline. I suggest the Assembly uses that time to reconsider its position on human sovereignty. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in momentary silence. Jun Wei studied the displays showing Assembly ships futilely probing the quantum barriers. They still think this is about independence, don't they? They haven't realized this is about evolution. That's always been their limitation, Amara said, watching Project Phoenix's energy readings climb steadily. They see boundaries, we see horizons. Petrov turned to face his officers, his expression resolute. For 3 centuries, humanity played the part of the obedient student, learning from our betters. Now it's time to show the galaxy what the students have become. Around them, Project Phoenix continued its work, preparing humanity for a transformation that would redefine what was possible in the galaxy. The Assembly had created the perfect conditions for human innovation, then failed to recognize what they had unleashed. The Assembly's combined fleet hung in space like a constellation of artificial stars. 200 warships representing the most powerful civilizations in known space had gathered for what they believed would be a decisive show of force. Fleet Admiral Zyrth, his biomechanical command pod interfaced directly with his flagship systems, watched the quantum barrier that shielded human space with all 6 of his sensor arrays. Status of the resonance cannons, he demanded. Charged and synchronized, Admiral, his weapons officer reported. The combined output should be sufficient to disrupt their quantum field technology. Zyrth's neural tendrils pulsed with satisfaction. The Assembly had spent the last 15 days gathering every scrap of information about human capabilities. Their scientists had worked frantically to develop countermeasures. Now it was time to remind humanity of their place in the galactic order. All ships commence firing sequence. 200 resonance cannons fired simultaneously, their energy beams converging on a single point of the quantum barrier. Space itself seemed to shudder as the attack struck home. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, a small hole appeared in the barrier. Breach achieved, the tactical officer announced. Quantum field destabilizing in target sector. Zyrth allowed himself a moment of triumph. Launch the first wave. Show these humans what real military power looks like. 50 ships surged forward toward the breach. As they approached, however, something strange happened. The hole in the barrier didn't expand as their calculations had predicted. Instead, it began to pulse with an odd rhythm like a heartbeat. Admiral, his science officer's voice carried an edge of worry. These readings, the barrier isn't failing, it's adapting. Before Zyrth could respond, space itself seemed to fold around his first wave of ships. When it unfolded, the vessels were still there but changed. Their hulls had been turned inside out, weapons systems facing inward, every system perfectly intact but fundamentally reversed. "Impossible," Zyrth whispered. A new signal cut through all command frequencies. The holographic image of Admiral Viktor Petrov appeared on every ship in the combined fleet. "An impressive display, Admiral Zyrth," Petrov said calmly. "But did you really think we spent 15 days doing nothing? Your resonance weapons were designed using assembly quantum theory. We've moved beyond that." As if to emphasize his point, the quantum barrier rippled. Thousands of objects emerged from what had appeared to be empty space, humanity's hidden defense grid. Each platform combined technologies in ways that defied assembly understanding. Kithal phase shields merged with Verdaxian energy matrices, Arcturian temporal dampeners enhanced by human quantum innovations. "We didn't build defenses against your weapons," Petrov continued. "We rebuilt space itself in these regions. Your ships aren't fighting our technology, they're fighting physics that no longer works the way you expect it to." Commander Junwei Chen's voice joined the transmission. "Your first wave of ships has not been destroyed, Admiral. We simply showed them what it means to exist in quantum-modified space. They can be restored once you withdraw." Zyrth's neural tendrils writhed with fury. "You dare threaten the combined fleet? We still have 150 ships ready to." The space around his remaining vessels suddenly blazed with energy as Project Phoenix activated. Massive quantum arrays around Jupiter pulsed in sequence, creating a cascading wave of spatial distortions. Every assembly ship found itself enveloped in overlapping fields of modified space-time. Director Amara Patel's voice carried a note of professional pride as she explained. "Your ships are now experiencing 15 different temporal states simultaneously. Don't worry, the effect is temporary, but I suggest you check your chronometers." Zyrth did so and felt his blood run cold. According to his ship systems, the entire combined fleet was experiencing the same 5 minutes over and over again, while the rest of the universe continued normally around them. "This is your final warning," Petrov declared. "The Assembly has 5 days left to recognize humanity's sovereignty. We don't want war, we've had 3 centuries to prepare for it, and as you've seen, we've developed capabilities you cannot counter. All we want is equality." The quantum effect released its hold on the combined fleet. Zyrth found his ships had been reorganized into a perfect sphere, each vessel facing outward. A clear demonstration of the precise control humanity now wielded over space itself. "Return to assembly space," Petrov advised. "Explain what you've seen. And remember, what we've shown you today isn't the extent of our capabilities. It's merely a glimpse of what humanity has become while you weren't paying attention." As the combined fleet retreated, Zyrth watched the quantum barrier shimmer with new patterns. The humans hadn't just advanced beyond assembly restrictions. They'd reinvented the fundamental laws of physics within their territory. And suddenly, the Assembly's greatest military commander understood. They hadn't been containing humanity's development. They had been incubating something unprecedented in galactic history. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Assembly had never been so quiet. Representatives from 300 species sat in stunned silence as they watched the holographic display showing the defeat of their combined fleet. High Chancellor Drelthan's scales had turned a pale gray, while Grand Arbiter Voxtal's crystalline form had lost its usual luster. The final hours of humanity's 30-day deadline approached. Ambassador Alina Rossi stood once again before the Assembly, but this time the chamber's atmosphere was dramatically different. Gone was the condescension, replaced by a wary respect tinged with fear. 300 years ago, Alina began, humanity looked to the stars and saw wonders. We saw possibilities. but you saw children playing with toys they didn't understand. Today, we show you what those children have become. The chamber's displays changed, showing the massive structure orbiting Jupiter Project Phoenix in its completed form. Director Amara Patel's voice filled the chamber. What you're seeing isn't just a weapon or a defense system. It's a gateway. Humanity hasn't just been combining your technologies, we've been using them to unlock the next stage of our evolution. The structure began to pulse with energy, creating patterns that hurt to look at geometric shapes that seem to exist in more dimensions than space should allow. Admiral Petrov's voice joined the presentation. The quantum barriers around human space weren't just for protection. They were cocoons, allowing us to rewrite the laws of physics itself within our territory, to create conditions that would let us transcend our current form of existence. Suddenly, every human colony world lit up with the same impossible energy. In the grand chamber, Elena Rossi began to glow with an inner light that defied description. Her form became fluid, shifting between states of matter that shouldn't have been possible. "We're not here to fight you," she said, her voice now carrying harmonics that resonated with the fundamental frequencies of space-time. "We're here to show you what's possible when you stop seeing boundaries between technologies, between species, between different forms of existence itself." High Chancellor Drelthin found his voice. What have you become?" A new figure appeared in the chamber, Director Patel, her form now a shifting matrix of light and quantum possibilities. "We've become what we always had the potential to be, beings who exist simultaneously in normal space and quantum space, entities who can perceive and manipulate the fundamental forces of reality." "This is what you feared," Admiral Petrov's voice resonated through the chamber as his quantum-transformed form materialized. "Not that we would misuse your technologies, but that we would understand them too well, that we would see connections you never imagined possible." Commander Jun Wei Chen appeared next, his form a dancing constellation of quantum possibilities. "Every gift you gave us, every piece of technology you thought was safe to share, they were all pieces of a greater puzzle, the puzzle of existence itself." The assembly representatives watched in awe as more transformed humans appeared, each one demonstrating mastery over different aspects of reality. Some shifted through time like it was a dimension of space. Others existed in multiple states simultaneously, their consciousness spread across quantum-linked points throughout the galaxy. "We don't want your territory," Elena assured them. "We don't want revenge for centuries of patronizing oversight. What we want is to share what we've discovered." The transformed humans began to share their perceptions with the assembly members, letting them glimpse reality as they now saw it. A vast interconnected quantum web where all possibilities existed simultaneously, where the boundaries between matter and energy, space and time, consciousness and reality were revealed as artificial constructs. "This is humanity's gift to the galaxy," Elena declared. "Not conquest, not dominance, but transcendence. The knowledge that evolution doesn't stop at biological or technological advancement, that consciousness itself can be transformed." She extended her hand, now a shifting pattern of quantum energy. "The choice is yours. Continue to see the galaxy as a collection of separate species and separate technologies, each confined to its own box, or join us in exploring what lies beyond those self-imposed limitations." The chamber erupted in voices, not of fear or anger now, but of wonder and possibility. Species that had spent millennia seeing themselves as separate and distinct began to recognize patterns of connection they had never noticed before. In the upper observation deck, analyst Zyxvorn watched with all his eyes as the old order crumbled, and a new one began to form. Humanity hadn't just changed the rules of the game, they had transcended the need for games altogether. The galaxy would never be the same, and perhaps he realized as he watched representatives from ancient species step forward to learn from their former children. That had been humanity's goal all along. They hadn't prepared for war. They had prepared to teach the galaxy how to evolve.